Good afternoon, friends. I, on behalf of Export Promotion Council for Handicrafts, welcome you all to today's webinar on minimizing the tax burden, interpreting the latest important changes in GST. The implementation of GST in India was a historical move in its own right, as it marked a significant indirect tax reform in the country, paving way for one nation, one tax to make India a unified market. We have come a long way since GST was implemented in the country nearly 3 years ago. We have seen many changes in the law, many amendments as far as procedures are concerned, and thus far, we have reached a stage wherein there has been an all-round acceptability of this new taxation regime. To begin with, we have with us Shri Ravi K. Pasi, Chairman EPCH, Shri Rakesh Kumar, Director General EPCH, Shri Rajkumar Malhotra, Vice Chairman EPCH, Shri R.K. Verma, Executive Director, EPCH. However, we also have the experts. We call them technical experts of the day. And I would like to introduce you to Mr. Dheeraj Rastogi. He is Joint Secretary in GST Council, and he has been recently transferred to GST Network. We welcome you, sir, for the first time on EPCH platform. We have with us Mr. KL Ramesh. He represents Messrs. Vijay Lakshmi Agarbatti Works, Bangalore. And we have with us from Jodhpur, Mr. Naresh Bothra, representing Bothra International, Jodhpur. Last but not the least, the key speaker of the day, Mr. Manoj Goyal. He is a chartered accountant and he has been associated with us from day one when the GST was announced. He has been our GST consultant and has been interacting with all our member exporters through these 3 years. Mr. Manoj Goyal is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is a professional with post-qualification experience of more than 2 decades across multifarious industry spectrums. Manojji is currently working as a senior partner with Messrs. RHMS Company Chartered Accountants. He is skilled trainer and speaker and is accredited trainer on GST by NASIN. NASIN is a National Academy of Customs, Indirect Taxes and Narcotics. So we welcome you, Manojji. Now I would request you to share your screen and start your presentation. And after your presentation, we'll come to panelists one by one. Manojji.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. So as always, it has been pleasure to be amongst the EPCH members and all the dignitaries on the dais, on the panel. So my association with EPCH goes back to 3 years, almost as long as the GST has been into the country. So as rightly pointed out by Rawatji, since day one of the introduction of GST, I got this opportunity of being amongst the EPCH members, and I am really thankful that I've been invited at various forums time and again, repeatedly, and I got this opportunity to know the fraternity more closely and work with the fraternity more closely. So today, as we all know that we are going through this difficult time of COVID-19 across the country, and as I was looking at the slide, Albert Einstein has mentioned that in every difficult situation, there is an opportunity. So likewise, the opportunity has been created by EPCH by bringing all of us together. And I can see that right now around 200 participants are already there on this platform listening to us, which has never happened when we used to do the physical meetings. I don't think we've ever crossed a number of 100 in all the previous meetings. So that's an opportunity that which has made us come together, all of us. We are sitting at home, but still trying to get connected and know what kind of changes are happening in the taxation regime. So with this brief note, I will now start. I hope I am audible to everyone, sir.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so with this, I am now beginning with the technical session. So as described by Rawatji, the topic of the day which has been assigned to me is all recent amendments or updates which have come in last 1.5 to 2 months So as you all know that the changes are ever stopping. They have been day in, day out. We've been getting a lot of notifications, circulars, updates, rule changes, even amendment in the act. So it is really a difficult task to cover everything within the given timeline. So obviously it's a Herculean task, but at the same time, all important and major changes I would like to bring up to your notice. And at the end of the session, given the time permits, we will take up the questions, if any, from the members. So on this slide, I've given the overview of what all are we going to discuss in today's session. So first of all, we will talk about the specific notification which has come in the light of COVID-19. Certain things have been taken care through these notifications, number 30 to 36, which are specifically relating to to nullify the impact of COVID-19. Then we have GST notifications from 20 to 29, which are majorly relating to the date extensions of various GST returns and other forms, etc. Then we have notification number 8 to 19, which are related to other changes. I mean, date extension, impact of COVID-19, and then we have different regulatory amendments through notification number 8 to 19. Then we have certain important circulars. And I would like to highlight that most of these circulars are pertinent to the export industry. So if we talk about circular number 132 to 37, which have come recently, more or less everything is somehow connected to the export community. So we have to spend a good amount of time talking about these circulars. And last but not the least, we have certain changes in the CGST rate notifications also. And then one notification in IGST, which is a mirror image of the CGST notifications. It's number 3/2020. So that's the gist of the discussion that we are going to cover today. So my presentation is quite lengthy. It has about 35 slides. So what I'm going to do is more or less the date extension and general notifications. I will not spend much of the time so that we can spend some quality time on the major issues. So the first one on your screen is notification number 36, which was issued on 3rd of April. So it talks about the dates within which you have to file your GSTR 3B returns. So more than 5 crores, they have given a different timeline, and less than 5 crores, they've given different timelines. As we know that for people who are less than 5 crores turnover, there is a staggered manner in which the dates of filing 3B returns have been given. So there is nothing more to discuss. Less than 5 crores, they have given the list of states which will have to file their returns by 12th of July. And there is another list of the states for which the deadline is 14th of July. And people who have more than 5 crores of turnover, there is only one due date across the country. So there is nothing much that we need to talk about. This specific notification is only covering the returns pertaining to May 2020. So now the next notification is 35. This again is talking about the extension of some due dates. It says that any time limit for any completion or compliance of any action by any person or authority which falls between 20th of March to 29th of June is automatically extended to 30th of June, which means that if there was any deadline for any matter, for example, you had to file your refund application within 2 years from the date of your export. So if somehow you have not been able to do that and the due date of 2 years falls between 20th of March till 29th of June, then you don't need to worry. Your date is extended till 30th of June. So within this period of around 3.5 months, any deadline which falls within this period is automatically extended by this notification to 30th of June. But there are certain things which have not been extended. So the list is like time and value of supply, which means there is no extension for issuing an invoice. In case you have done some work, some sales or some exports, then this date you will have to comply with. Turnover exceeding limit of composition. So for example, between this period of 20th March till 29th June, if there is a person who has crossed the limit of composition scheme. We know that presently 1.5 crores is the limit for composition. So if somebody crosses that limit in between this period, then this extension will not work. Likewise, for issuing an invoice, there is no extension. GSTR 1, no extension. Late fees, interest, power to arrest, partner's liability to pay tax. These are the exceptions. So except all this, everything other than this, there is a blanket extension from if some date is falling within this period of 20th March till 30th June, then it will automatically get extended to 30th of June. But we have to be mindful of all the exceptions given below. For example, there is no extension for e-way bill. There is a separate extension given for the e-way bill, but under this blanket exemption, e-way bill is also not covered. So that's a welcome step. That, for example, if there was a notice to be issued, or if there was a notice given to you and you were supposed to give a reply to the department within say 15 days or 1 month, and the date was falling within this period, then the date of giving response to the department automatically gets extended till 30th of June. So if there is a show cause notice issued by the department or any other notice or letter given by them, no need to worry, our time limit will automatically get extended to 30th of June. So now, as I said, for e-way bill, this blanket exemption does not work, but what works is a separate extension. It was said that if there is an e-way bill, which is the validity is falling between 20th March till 15th of April, the date of validity will be deemed to be extended till 30th of April 2020. So for example, there was a material which was shipped from Bombay to Delhi on 18th of March. So we all know that for every 100 kilometers, we have a 24 hours limit. So for example, 1000 kilometers distance, we will have a total limit of 10 days. So the date was expiring on 28th of March. 18th March, we sent a shipment from Bombay to Delhi, and 1000 kilometers is the distance, for example. So the expiry will fall on 28th of March. But because of this notification, they have extended the timeline of such e-way bills till 30th of April. Now, this is notification number 34, again about the extension of certain dates. So it says that for a composition dealer, the CMP 08 can now be for the quarter ending March can now be filed by 7th of July. The original date was 30th April, but it has now been extended to 7th of July. Likewise, for GSTR 4, for the year ended March 2020, now the date has been extended to 15th July 2020. Next is the notification number 33. It talks about the waiver of late fees for filing GSTR 1. For the month of March, April and May 2020, the date has been extended to 30th June 2020. And for the quarter ending March 2020, also the date has been extended to 30th June 2020. Now, this is important. It is notification number 32, which talks about certain waiver for the people who will now be able to file their return later than the due dates. So we have categorized this into 3 different formats. One, the taxpayers who has aggregate turnover more than 5 crores. For them, for the period of February, March and April, if the GSTR 3B is filed before 24th June 2020, then in that case, no late fee will be applicable. So February, March, April, all 3 returns, if we file on or before 24th of June 2020, then it will be exempted. There is no, in this case, there will not be any late fees chargeable. And likewise, if we file our returns within the extended due dates for the people whose turnover is between 1.5 crores to 5 crore or less than 1.5 crores, then if you file the returns within the extended timelines, the 3B return late fees or late payment penalty has been extended. So we have to be mindful of 2 things. One, that there is no blanket extension of filing of returns. It is only the waiver of filing of the late fees. They will not charge you the late fees, but they have not extended the due date or deadline for filing the returns. So this is one where you can file within the extended period without any late fees. Now, it's important to know why they have not extended the date, but rather they have only waived the late fees or the penalty. Most important thing is they did not want to lose on the interest specifically from the bigger taxpayers. So again, now they have clarified that while we are extending or rather giving you relaxation in filing of return time, but at the same time, there will not be a complete waiver of the interest on the delayed payment of tax. So they've said that for smaller taxpayers whose turnover is less than 5 crores, if you file your return within the extended due date, respective due dates are mentioned on the screen, then in that case, no interest will be charged because you have deposited your tax in a delayed manner. But if you are a taxpayer with more than 5 crores of turnover, then in that case, the relaxation is only for 15 days. So for example, for the month of March, original due date for filing the return was 20th April. They've given you 15 days free without any interest. So which means March return, if you file before 5th of May, then there will be no interest. But if you are a large taxpayer with turnover of more than 5 crores and you delay your return more than by 15 days, then for rest of the period, you will have to pay interest, but at a lower rate of 9%, effectively 0.75% per month. You will have to pay interest on the delayed filing of taxes beyond 15 days. So for a larger taxpayer, the interest waiver is only up to 15 days. Beyond that, you have to pay interest. For the smaller taxpayers, the interest has been waived. Now, the most important thing I wanted to point out was that we have to be really, really mindful about these dates. So why they have not extended the date and only given some waiver in terms of late fees and interest is because they wanted to make sure that anybody who does not follow even these extended deadlines, then all the delay provisions, including late fees and interest, etc., will fall on you. So I'll give you an example. If your due date falls on 24th of June and you don't file your return even on 24th of June, then the late fees will be applicable from day one, and also the interest will be applicable from day one at the standard rate of 18%. It does not matter whether you are a small or a bigger taxpayer, but we have to be mindful that we have to fight to get this exemption or to get this liberty. We have to make sure that the filing is done within the extended timelines. Even a 1 day delay will bring you back to the normal position, and all the penalties and interest, everything will become applicable. So it is very, very important that we should not miss these extended deadlines. The next is notification number 30. It is rather an amendment to certain rules. So we'll briefly talk about these rules. One, it says that the intimation for opting of composition scheme, the date has been extended. Now you can do this up to 30th June 2020. And also if you have to carry forward certain input tax credit in case you want to shift yourself from normal taxpayer to composition taxpayer, then earlier the deadline was 31st March 2020. Now you can do this up to 30th June. And likewise, for filing the ITC statement, you can now go up to 31st July. So that's again a date of extension only. Another change which is very, very important and big one is relating to rule number 36.4. So rule number 36.4 from the day one has been very, very difficult for the industry. So what it says is nothing which is there in your GSTR 2A, you cannot claim the input tax credit. So first the rule came that you can claim 20% higher than what is being shown in your GSTR 2A, subject to that you have actually taken more services or more goods, but your 2A is not showing something. So for example, your 2A is showing 10 lakh rupees and you have actually taken goods or services for 15 lakh rupees. So you can take 12 lakh rupees of input was the initial rule. Then they changed it to 10%. So they said rather than 20%, we'll only give you 10%. Means if you have 10 lakhs in your 2A and you actually bought 15 lakh worth of material, then you can take input only on 11 lakhs. Now, in this COVID-19 situation, a little bit of relaxation, they are saying that we will not look at your compliance with this rule on month-to-month basis, because the department has given many extensions to the filing of returns, including GSTR1. So which means that now your 2A in any case will be delayed. In many cases, you cannot see your input in 2A. So in that situation, they have given a relaxation that for the period beginning from February 2020 till September 2020, you can very much avail this on a consolidated basis. So you can keep taking input of all your bills irrespective of how much is being shown in the 2A, but you have to make sure that at the end of September 2020, you have to comply with the rule on consolidated basis. So on consolidated basis, you have to see that your total input tax credit, which is shown in the GSTR 2A for these 7 months, should not exceed more than 110% of the value which is shown in the GSTR 2A. So the next is notification number 20 to 29. That's the second category. So this is more or less all about the extension. So I will not take much time because then we have to go to some more important issues. So I'll briefly talk about all this. The GSTR, the due date for filing GSTR 3B for the registered persons having turnover more than 5 crores for the months from April to September 2020, April to September 2020, the due date has been given 20th of the succeeding month. So that's a normal provision. They have only extended this provision for next 6 months as it was happening earlier also. So most of these changes are again similar to the existing provisions. Only thing is these provisions were initially given till 31st March 2020. Now they have extended the same provisions for next 6 months also. So I am not going to spend much time on these. Again, this is the same thing. GSTR 1 was always 11th of the succeeding month. So it is again 11th of the succeeding month only, but only for next 6 months they have given the extension. So again, this is a date change, nothing else. And all these notifications are now pertaining to Jammu and Kashmir specifically because of the reorganization of the state. We all know that there are certain changes in terms of some relaxations have been given. Since it is only and only pertaining to Jammu and Kashmir and it talks about various dates extensions, so I am not going to spend time on this. This PowerPoint in any case can be shared with everyone, all the participants. So whosoever wants to look into this, they can. But majority of the changes that you're looking at your screen are pertaining to J&K and Ladakh only. So these are date extensions, nothing else. So I am skipping all of them so that we can reach to more important changes. This is now notification number 8/2020 to 19/2020. Notification number, this is the third category of the presentation that we were supposed to discuss. So this is an important change for all the taxpayers who want to take a fresh registration or a new registration. This is an important change. So this talks about that certain categories of people will now have to undergo authentication of your Aadhaar number before being eligible to be a registered person under GST. So it means that now from 1st of April 2020, if you are an individual, you are a partnership firm, you are a Hindu undivided family, or you are a managing partner, all such situations, you have to undergo Aadhaar authentication first. So there is a procedure given. I will not get into the procedure, but the fact of the matter is that the government has realized that in many cases, the registrations have been obtained by people with some malicious activities or by using some fraud documents. So just to avoid that, they have come out with a mandatory requirement that every registration, wherever possible, will have to first undergo Aadhaar authentication. Without Aadhaar authentication, now after 1st April 2020, no registration will be allotted. So this is important to know for all of us. So what they have done is they've given the list of people who will have to undergo Aadhaar authentication. So individuals, all authorized signatories in whatever, like in a company also, if you are an authorized signatory, your Aadhaar authentication is a must. Managing or authorized partner, Karta of a Hindu undivided family, but it does not apply to a person who is not the citizen of India. So that is understandable. A citizen, a person who is not a citizen of India will probably not have an Aadhaar. So this notification also has been brought into the rules to make sure that they have given a procedure as to how Aadhaar authentication will work. So the rule has also been accordingly amended. So what they've done is a new rule has been inserted, rule number 4A, which talks about Aadhaar authentication only. So we will skip the process. But the only important thing I wanted to point out here is that if a person fails to undergo authentication of Aadhaar, suppose I am the authorized signatory of a company and my Aadhaar authentication fails because of whatever reasons, then before allowing registration to that entity, physical verification of that entity will be must. Without a physical verification in such case, you will not be able to take registration if your Aadhaar authentication fails. And physical verification will happen within 60 days from the date when you apply for registration. And more importantly, they've categorically mentioned that even if for some reasons your physical verification does not happen, then even you will not get the registration number. So in other words, to obtain a registration, either you have to undergo the Aadhaar authentication or you have to get your premises physically verified by a proper officer to get the registration. So additional requirement for the physical verification of the place of business at person has been inserted. That is, if a person fails the Aadhaar authentication before grant of registration, physical verification of the place of business of a person is required. So it's a must. That's a very important change for all the people who want a new registration. They will have to get this done. Otherwise, registration will not be given. So this, the next change is about certain change in the rule number 43. It's quite a technical thing. So I am skipping this because to understand this, we will first have to understand what is rule 43 and also the calculations. This is a little difficult thing. So I don't think that within the given timeline, we should touch this. Otherwise, we'll miss out on more important things. So I'm skipping it deliberately. Now, the next one is a proviso insertion in rule number 80 sub rule 3, which is very, very important for all of us to know. What it says is that specifically for the financial year 2018-19, we all know that even for financial year 2018-19, GST audit and the GST annual return has still not been filed. The extended deadline for filing GST annual return and the GST audit is now 30th June 2020. But a relaxation has been given through this change in the rule is that less than 5 crore turnover, you are not required to get your accounts audited. So that's a welcome change for all small taxpayers for financial year 18-19. We know that the general limit is 2 crores otherwise, but for 18-19 specifically, they have given a relaxation by increasing this limit. So less than 5 crores, no need to get the audit done for GST 18-19 only. For 19-20, again, the rule will be 2 crores only. So this is for 1 year. They have given this relaxation. And most importantly, it is only for GST audit. So annual return you will have to file, but GST audit you can skip. Another one is insertion of rule 86(4)(a). If the tax has wrongly been paid or paid in excess, which was required to be paid, and the registered person has claimed the refund of such amount from ITC ledger, the refund shall be provided by recrediting the amount in electronic credit ledger by making an order in form GST PMT 03. This is a provision which was already there, but now the important thing we need to understand is that many people, what they were doing was that they were making some payments from their ITC ledger, and then they were claiming that this was wrongly paid, now give us refund, and the refund was being asked in cash only. So to change that anomaly, so what was happening through this was that in your ITC ledger you have some balance, So as a law, in ITC ledger, your balance can be refunded only in two cases. One, you are making exports, and second, you are supplying to some SEZ people, or maybe your product is under inverted duty structure. So if you are not falling under any of the categories, you are not supposed to take refund of your input tax credit. But there were many people who were using this by making some wrong payments deliberately, using your input tax credit and then applying for refund, saying that, oh, I made some mistake in paying tax, so give me refund. So when they used to apply for refund, the government had no mechanism to give the refund in their credit ledger again. So they used to give them the refund in cash. So this was an indirect method of taking refunds in certain cases. So by making this change now, they have clarified that if you have made some wrong payment from your ITC ledger, we will only give credit to your ITC ledger, we will not give the refund in cash. If you have made some payment in cash and you are asking for refund, we will give you in cash. But if you made from ITC ledger, we'll give you in ITC ledger only. So that's about the change. Now, the next and most specific to the exporters, and I want to draw your attention to this. This is very, very important. Rule number 86.4, clause C, they have substituted the definition of zero rated supply of goods. Now, this is the backbone of our industry. For claiming refund, we have to first of all see what is the zero rated supply in our case. I mean, what is the value of export? Zero rated supply of goods is nothing but the value of export only. So earlier it used to be whatever export you make at whatever value you make, the total amount was calculated as zero rated supply. But now look at the second clause of this. It says whichever is less of the above two. So the first one is very clear, the value of zero rated supply of goods made during the relevant period. So whatever you export and whatever the value you have declared in your shipping bill, you have to take that. But in the second clause, they say that you have to take the value which is 1.5 times the value of like goods domestically supplied by the same or similar supplier supplying the same goods. Means if there is one product you are selling in the local market at 100 rupees and the same product you are exporting at 200 rupees, then for calculating your refund, the zero rated supply, you will have to restrict it to 150 rupees only. So there cannot be a gap between these items, that when you supply something locally, it is 100 rupees, and when you export, it becomes 500 rupees. That is not allowed. So anything, if your export price is more than 1.5 times the domestic price, then they will restrict your value for the purpose of export only to 1.5 times. That's a big change. And I don't know, people have different perceptions about why this change has come in. Probably certain people were trying to misuse this provision. So I don't know, we'll have to debate on this, but the matter of the fact is that if any of us are into local domestic supplies also and the same product for export also, please make sure that the domestic price and the export price should not vary more than what they have explained here is 1.5 times of the local price. And mind you, this is not only about your own rates. So a person who is only making exports, but his counterpart or his parallel exporter who is doing the local supplies also, their prices can also be compared if you are into the same product. Almost if the products are comparable, even if you are, I say that I am 100% exporter, I am not doing any domestic, so there is no comparison. But my neighbor is doing the same product and he is selling it in the local market also. So that price will also be compared. Look at this line. It says the value which is 1.5 times the value of like goods domestically supplied by the same or similar supplier supplying the same goods as declared by the supplier. So it means not only me, but my similar supplier will also be considered for this rule. So the next one, the change in the rule, which we have already discussed, is about if I am making some payment by debiting my credit ledger, then the refund will also come into my credit ledger only, except for the export. This is not about export. This is about any other. For example, I make a wrong payment here and I want a refund of that. But when I made the payment, I used credit ledger. So the refund will also come into your credit ledger only. This is the change in rule number 96. Okay, so this I am skipping because we have limited time. Okay, the next one again insertion of rule number 96B. That is a little important. We'll spend some time on this. So it talks about refund with respect to export of goods on LUT or payment of IGST has been paid. The sale proceeds in respect of such exports must be received in part or full as per the time specified in FEMA Act. So this is a new insertion, again a very important one. So earlier they were not linking our exports with the realization of payment. They were simply saying that if you filed a shipping bill for the goods, see services, if you are exporting services, then you are entitled for refund only when your payment comes in. But that was not the case for export of goods. Now with this rule, they have brought in a major change. They say that if you are exporting goods and your payment is not received within the timeline specified by RBI under FEMA, which is presently 9 months from the date of shipping. So any amount for which you have taken refund, for example, you have exported for 2 crores but the realization of your export proceeds has only been 1.5 crores within the times stipulated by RBI. So you will have to return back the excess refund that you have taken on the 50 lakh rupees along with interest payment. So this is a step taken to make sure that all the exports for which people are taking refund, the money is also received by them within that stipulated time. If the money is not received, then you have to return the refund taken with interest to the department. So that's again a big change. And I think there are some more technicalities into this, but time does not permit. So I will move on quickly. It says that if the person fails to deposit the refund, then the recovery proceedings can be done under section 73 or 74 of the Act. So which means that if you have somehow not been able to refund within the prescribed timeline, then you have to refund this amount. Now, at the bottom of your screen, you can look at that there is another undertaking which you will have to file at the time of filing the refund application, which is again a confirmation that you know about this rule and you will make sure the payment comes in time. If it does not come within time, then you have to refund the amount. So I hereby undertake to deposit to the government the amount of refund sanctioned along with the interest in case of non-receipt of foreign exchange remittances as per the proviso to section 16 of the IGST Act 2017, read with rule 96B of the CGST rules 2017. So they are going to ask you for this additional declaration, which means that now onwards, if you file a refund application, you will have to give this declaration also that I will ensure payment coming within the timeline. So this is again, we know that the extension of timeline for filing annual return has now been done up to 30th June. It was 31st March initially, and then now it has been further extended to 30th June. This is extension of the QR code. So you would be knowing that for the larger taxpayers, there was a provision for e-invoicing as well as a provision for generating QR code. So these two provisions have now been again extended the deadlines from 1st of April to now 1st of October 2020. So the next change is again theoretical change. It says that if somebody has wrongly for the financial year 1920, if somebody has wrongly filed GSTR 3B, he was supposed to file CMP 08, but if he has wrongly filed GSTR 3B, then he will not have to file CMP 08 anymore. It will be considered that he has filed his CMP 08. Okay, now this one is just for your knowledge. We will not spend time on this. There is a specific notification about the people who are undergoing the insolvency resolution process. So there was a lot of problem in cases where a company or any entity was undergoing a resolution process. Then they have come out with this specific notification which explains about how will you have to deal under GST when you have some the process of resolution is going into your company. So I am not going to touching that. If somebody is interested, then can read this entire provision. But since it is not for the common use, so I am skipping it. Now, the next one again is more or less a theoretical thing. So because of the reorganization of the union territories of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu, there is certain change for filing pattern, their due dates, etc., etc. So let's not talk about that as well. So it is only because of the reorganization of these two union territories. So I am skipping this as well. Okay, so again, this is similar only about these two union territories. This is about valuation of lotteries, betting, gambling, horse racing. I am skipping this. Yeah, so this is really important. So we have come to the final stages of our presentation now, which is about the certain circulars, as I mentioned, and most of the circulars have direct relevance to all the export community. So the first one is circular number 137, and it says that if the invoice issued by the supplier for a service contract against which the advance has been received and that has been subsequently cancelled. So we know that there are so many cases where certain people have received some advance against some contracts, and because of the COVID-19 situation, many of the events have now been cancelled. So there is a situation where somebody received advance, paid GST on that advance to the department, but now the event has been cancelled. So what should we do? I think this was a question raised by EPCH also to us, that there is a situation where we have deposited huge tax to the government on account of advances received from our participants, but now the events are being cancelled. So what should we do? So they have given the answer here. They say that you can simply issue, in case you have issued an invoice. So there are two situations. One where one has issued an invoice. So you can issue a credit note against that invoice. And if you have other liabilities against which you need to pay some tax, then you can adjust this amount against other liabilities. But if you don't have other liabilities also, your outward liabilities are zero, then you can file a refund under RFD 01. So one option is you have raised an invoice and now you have cancelled your contract, so no more services supply is required, so you can issue a credit note. If you have some other liabilities, you can adjust against that. If you don't have any other liabilities, then you can simply file RFD 01, the refund application. Similar provision for the goods as well. If a tax invoice is issued by the supplier of goods and the goods returned by the recipient, the GST paid on such supply can be claimed by issuing a credit note. So there have been many instances where in the month of February or March, we have paid GST because the goods were taken out of the factory and they were sent to the port, but now the order has been cancelled, or for some reason your goods are coming back. So, and you've already deposited tax on that. So in that situation also, the similar provision, you can issue a credit note. If you have other liabilities, adjust against those liabilities. If you don't have other liabilities, then again file a refund application and claim your refund. So this is, there can be two situations. One, against an advance supply, you have raised an invoice, and in another situation, you could have raised not an invoice but an receipt voucher. For advance, technically, everyone will not issue an invoice. There is a process of issuing a receipt voucher also. So if you have issued a receipt voucher, then you can also issue a refund voucher and take refund in the same manner. So there is only a technical difference between a receipt voucher and an invoice, but otherwise the provision of claiming refund in both the situations is similar. So now we talk about circular number 136. Okay, sir, thank you. So circular number 136, it talks about the specific amendments made through the notification for changes due to COVID-19. So when the original notifications were issued, the number 30 to 36 about the changes in date and some interest waiver, some late fees waiver, etc. So people were raising a lot of questions. They were confused about the languages of the notifications. So the department has come out with this circular, which is nothing but a reiteration of all the provisions which we have already discussed. So it talks about certain changes. I have skipped that because that's again a reiteration of what we've already discussed in notification number 30 to 36. So I will now come to circular number 35. It talks about clarification on certain refund related issues. So as always, that's something which is important for us. Number one, the most important change they have come out with is now a refund application can be filed for multiple tax periods across different financial years. So you would recall that initially when GST was brought in, there was no option to file GST refund for multiple periods together. So there were so many people who were stuck because their purchase was in April and their export was in May. So if they file in May, there was no import. If they file in April, there was no export. So the department came out with an answer that, okay, you club these periods put together and then apply for refund. So the problem was sorted out. But then in that case, there were certain situations where your periods were falling into two different financial years. So for example, you purchased in March 2019 and you exported in April 2019. Then obviously clubbing was also not possible because they said clubbing can happen between two financial years, between two periods only within the same financial year. But this is again a welcome change. Now they have allowed that you can club the periods which are falling into two different financial years also, no problem. So the next one is in case of change in GST rate on the same goods at different point of time will not attract inverted duty structure. So that's a very technical but important point. So what is inverted duty structure is when you are buying something at a higher rate of tax. So for example, you buy some iron products and the input rate is say 18%. And after making certain items out of that import, the output rate is only 5%. So there is a lot of accumulation of import because of the higher tax rate. And there is a provision that like an exporter, if you are dealing into some inverted structure items, you can file a refund. So there are only two situations where one can file a refund. One is of course zero rated supplies, export and SEZ, and the second is inverted duty. So there was a situation where a person bought a lot of raw material and the rate of that item was 18%. But by the time he started selling those items, the department reduced the rate to 12%. So we all know that the rates are changing every day. So if I bought 1 crore rupees of items at 18% tax, I paid 18 lakh rupees on that. Now, when I start selling them, the rate reduces to maybe 12% or to 5%. So what will happen? I have input tax credit of 18 lakhs. But when I sell those goods, even if there is some profit, I can still have some input tax credit lying with me as unutilized. So people were saying that why can't we get the refund? If inverted duty structure is that I buy an item at 18% and make something else which is at 5%, so you are giving me refund. But if you are buying something at 18% and when I start selling, it's the same product. I am only a trader. I am not changing the item, but the rate has been changed by the department. So many people were saying that why can't I get the refund because my input will also get stuck. So here they have now clarified that no refund will be given in such a situation. If there is a change in the same product's rate, then because of that, we will not give you refund. We'll only give you refund if you are making something and your input is at a higher rate and your outputs are at lower rate, then only the inverted duty structure will give you the refund. Next one, it is noted that inverted duty structure is applicable only when the rate of tax on inputs being higher than the rate of tax on output supplies. It would not be applicable in the cases where input and output supplies are same. So as we already discussed, that in case you are selling the same product but there is a rate change, no refund will be given to you. Next is any refund of tax paid on supplies other than zero rated supplies will now be admissible proportionately in the respective original mode of payment. That is, in case of refund, we will have to see whether we made the payment by cash or through ITC ledger. We have already discussed this. Most important change which I would like to highlight, and that's like a very, very harsh step taken by the department for all the exporters. So now look at this very carefully. It says the refund of ITC of invoices which were not reflected in the GSTR 2A could previously be availed by uploading copies of such invoices when you file a refund application. Now, the refund of accumulated ITC can be availed only for those invoices which are reflecting in GSTR 2A of the applicant. So which means that if there is an invoice for which you have made some purchase, but it is not showing in your GSTR 2A, now they will not give you refund anymore. So earlier, even if you had purchased something, for some reasons it was not coming into your 2A, but you have the copy of bill and you have all the proofs, they were giving you refunds. And then now they have clearly mentioned in the rule itself that you will get refund of only of the amount which is shown in your 2A, nothing beyond that. And what they have done is very promptly in Annexure B itself, they have changed the format. So in the format, now they have asked for certain additional information, and they have already deleted the option of saying that whether this particular invoice is now available in the GSTR 2A or not. So they have clearly said that if it is in the 2A, then only apply. If it is not in 2A, then we will not give you. So this is one. And second, the Annexure B, they have made some changes which we still need to understand as to how will we comply. So Annexure B, what they have said is now the applicant is required to mention the HSN code or SSC code. So earlier it was not there. Now they're asking that every item for which you are asking for refund, you have to give the HSN code of that item. So now take an example. If I buy something from a vendor and in one invoice, there are 20 line items because I buy different products, and every product has a different HSN code, different rate and value, etc. So in one invoice, I can have 20 line items and every line item may have a different HSN code. So the way this format has been designed, probably they're asking for 20 line items against one invoice. So this is a huge task. And I think very, very harsh step taken by the department. And I think we must take it up that there are certain genuine cases where it is not humanly impossible to give all the HSN codes. And secondly, there are situations where the GSTR 2A will not give you the reflection of your input tax. How will you manage those situations is really we'll have to test in the times to come. But I think the government has come out with these harsh steps because they have encountered some fraudulent activities across the industry. There were a few people who were trying to take benefit of the existing provisions. Because of this huge change has been brought in. But I think this is harsh to the people who are genuinely doing business as an exporter and not doing any hanky-panky. For them, it is really difficult. So the next one, again, as we discussed, this circular number is only about the companies which are undergoing the process of corporate insolvency resolution process. So I am not going through the details of what all are the changes, but the presentation is there. If somebody wants to have a look, then definitely you can. So another one is circular number 133. It talks about the apportionment of ITC in case of business reorganization as per section 18(3). I will not talk about this also in detail because it's a huge circular, but the crux is that in case your company or your organization is restructuring, maybe merger, demerger, amalgamation, sale of assets, transfer of assets, in those situations they have given a method. If your company has an ITC balance of 4 crore rupees and you want to demerge it into 2 different entities, then how will you allocate the ITC to each entity? They have given the details, the detailed process through which you can do that. So I am going to skip this as well. So let us have a look at what is the last circular 132. So this circular talks about the clarification in respect of appeals in regard to non-constitution of appellate tribunal. So they have said that if you are supposed to file an appeal before the appellate tribunal, if your original appeal with the first appellate authority, which is commissioner or joint commissioner, if they have given a judgment which is against you and you want to go forward and file your appeal before the appellate tribunal, but the appellate tribunal has still not been constituted, then your 3 months will start from the day when the chairman of the tribunal takes the office for the first day. So in between, if there is a time lapse, then that will be taken care of. Your 3 months period will start from the day when an appellate tribunal is formed and the chairman takes office to the appellate tribunal. So with this, I think, although there are many other things that we could have discussed, but As the time permits, we have come to almost the end of our slides as well. And rest, I hand over the mic to Rawat sir for the carrying forward of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manojji. Thank you very much. And as always, you have been thorough with your presentation. And some of the notices or the provision which caught my eye or which caught my attention, or probably everybody's, included zero rated supply of goods, 1.5 times value clause, and then circular number 137/7 2020 advance received, which affects EPCH as well, because we are the show organizers, and some other provisions related to inverted duty, GSTR 2A, and HSN, filing of HSN code for every product that you have bought. So all in all, we have details of what has happened during the past 1 month as far as GST taxation regime is concerned, and the notices and notification have been issued during that period. Moving on, we have with us Mr. Dheeraj Rastogi. Mr. Rastogi is a joint secretary with GST Council. He has recently been transferred to GST Network. Mr. Rastogi is an IRS officer with 24 years of work experience in Government of India and currently working as Joint Secretary GST Network. He has worked extensively in CBEC, now CBIC, and have experience of working in customs, central excise and service tax on both intelligence cultivation and collection, profiling of entities, as well as running of EDI projects successfully. May we invite you, sir, for your comments and what all provisions, to share your thoughts on the provisions that have been announced during this COVID period. Mr. Rastogi. Sir, you can unmute yourself and then.
Thank you, Mr. Rawat.
Thank you, sir.
And it gives me a lot of pleasure to join this webcast. And in fact, it is for the first time that I am joining any such event through a remote method. And maybe I will gain a lot of experience from this also, because interacting with the people actually gives you inputs for the policies to be framed later on. And it also gives you input as to what to improve in the systems. Now, today we have listened the presentation from the Mr. Manoj Goyal, and he has highlighted all the changes which have happened in the past 2-3 months in quite a detail. So I would not go through those changes, but I would like to just clarify a little bit about some of them, as they have been adequately covered by Mr. Manoj Goyal. The first and foremost thing that I would like to say about those change in dates which have been brought out by the notifications 30 to 33, 34, I think 34. From 30 to 34, all the changes have been brought about in the compliance to be done by the taxpayers. Those are actually not the extension of dates, if you strictly see. These are actually where the government is saying that, okay, the taxpayer can file the tax return because of the COVID. He's not in a position to access his data, maybe at office, or the employees are not coming. So all those looking to those difficulties, they have said that these compliances can be done at a later date. We would not charge any late fee for that compliance being done late. And in most of the cases would not charge interest also. However, if those dates are not met, then the interest and late fee would start from the actual dates. So that is the one thing which has to be kept in mind. So whatever extension, whatever dates have been given by the government for complying, those should be followed by the trade as far as possible. Otherwise, the otherwise the consequences in the form of late fee and the interest would be coming in this time of COVID also. The other thing that I was side by side looking at the type of questions also, and Mr. Rawat has also mentioned that a number of people have raised queries about the export value being 1.5 times of the market value. Seeking clarification about that provision. I can tell you the intent why it has been brought. It has been brought by the government because of that experiences from the customs. In the customs side, it is seen that people obtain a particular product from the market, buy it, say for 100 rupees. But then they try to export it for 500 rupees or maybe 1,000 rupees. So government stand is, you may export it for 1,000 rupees, but for the purpose of IGST refund, we will treat it only up to 150 rupees. So IGST refund, actually those people who are making use of that IGST refund route to misuse that IGST refunds. In many of the cases, it was found that the purchase from the market and then thereafter export was all bogus. They were just trying to encash that refund. So that actually is not on genuine exporters, but actually capping the route of IGST refund by crooks. Another thing was that difference that they have linked the realization of the foreign exchange proceeds with the export benefits. Now here again, this thing has been done to bring parity between the goods and services. In case of services, the refund is granted only after that remittances have been received. Whereas in case of goods, the remittances come much later and the drawback or the refund is granted much in advance. And in many cases, it was seen that this provision was getting misused. Subsequently, the government found that no remittances have come because the RBI every month shares the statement showing that in all cases where the export proceeds have been received and in wherever the export proceeds have not been received for the last 6 months. So there, as per law, they were required to recover. But when we go to recover, we found that nobody is existing at that address. So it has been linked with the export proceeds so that this linkage was missing and this linkage was being misused. So that has been capped. Another thing that people wanted to know, why for the traders, no ITC refund for inverted tax rate would be given. In case of traders, in case of manufacturer, this situation is very clear because he obtains certain inputs at a higher rate and then makes the goods at the makes and supplies the goods at the lower rates. And similarly, in case of services also, there the situation is very clear and the scope of misuse is very low. But in case of traders, the government says, all right, you can have an inverted tax structure, but it would be very rare. It would be in such a certain situation when you are running a business and during the running of the business, a situation may come that for example, in the annual revision of tax rate, the tax rate on your final product may be reduced. But that impact would last only for say a month or 2 months, would not be for ever. So you utilize your accumulated tax credit for tax payment in the future. No cash refund would be given. Similarly, the provision of asking for HSN and SSE code in case of refund applications. Here also the attempt is to cap the misuse of refund route. And it has been observed in many of the cases that some people obtain iron steel and sell some food product, or maybe vice versa. They obtain a food product and sell the iron steel. So there is no linkage between the inputs and the supplies. So this kind of misuse could be stopped. That is why this kind of provision have been built in. Maybe these explanation would satisfy a number of people, but I think many of the queries would still remain. So with this, I would conclude, and maybe we can look at those queries going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing the government's point of view on the various notification and circulars which have been issued. And thanks for clarifying those, because instead, in the absence of such clarification, there's a lot of confusion and misrepresentation on part of many. Thank you very much for your comments, sir. Now moving on, we have with us, and now before we move on to the other set of panelists, I would request Manoj Goel to kindly, Mr. Goel, kindly have a look at number of questions and answers that have been posed. So we'll take these questions in the end. And sir, to Mr. Rastogi as well, sir, there are a lot of questions. So what we'll do is we'll have one set of discussion with panelists, and in the end, we'll come for question answer session. Now moving on, we have our practical experts. We call them practical experts because they are all exporters, and they have been filing GST returns. They have had some problems, but they have overcome that. Now the system, they are used to the system now, and they are all GST registered, GST filing experts. To start with, we have with us Mr. Ravi K. Pasi. He is Chairman EPCH. Sir, I would like to request you to share your initial thoughts, and then we'll move on. Pasi.
Good afternoon. Shri Dheeraj Rastogi ji, Joint Secretary GST Council, Mr. Manoj Goel ji, Malhotra ji, Vice Chairman Verma ji, ED Ramesh ji, Naresh Bothra ji, and members, member exporter, my COA members. GST सब्जेक्ट एक ऐसा सब्जेक्ट है जो आज के टाइम के अंदर एक्सपोर्टर्स को पैसों की बहुत ज़रूरत है। उसके लिए कई प्रॉब्लम्स भी हैं एक्सपोर्टर्स को कि आजकल वो कह रहे हैं जी हमारा पैसा फंसा हुआ है, हम लोगों को थोड़े फंड्स नहीं आ रहे। एक तो ये भी है, अगर ये कुछ शायद क्वेश्चन आंसर के बीच में ये सवाल जवाब होंगे। ऐसे एक्सपोर्ट्स के अंदर मैं एक्सपोर्टर भाइयों को ये कहना चाहूँगा कि घबराने की अभी कोई ज़रूरत नहीं, क्योंकि मेरी भी 2-3 या 4 आदमियों से फॉरेन बायर से भी रोज़ बात होती है, क्योंकि अभी ये हॉलैंड हो गया, जर्मनी हो गया, यूरोप के जैसे ये इटली है, कई कंट्रीज़ हैं जो 3 मई को अपनी सारी मार्केट्स को खोलने जा रहे हैं। अभी उन्होंने ट्रायल बेसिस के ऊपर कई स्टोर्स खोले हैं, जैसे कॉफ ऑफ है, कॉफ हॉले है। इनको उन्होंने एक ट्रायल बेसिस के ऊपर ऐसे खोला है कि एक हॉल के, एक कॉफ हॉले के अंदर, मॉल के अंदर कितने आदमी एडजस्ट हो पाएंगे। जो पहले 100 होते थे, उन्होंने 10 की लाइन लगाई, एंड दे मार्क्ड इट फ्रॉम द आउटसाइड दैट you go there and they have a time limit. Okay, you can buy your things within 20 minutes. 10 people. जब 10 लोग बाहर आ जाएंगे तो दूसरे 10 को वो अंदर करेंगे. So they planned like this. क्योंकि इसी से ही कंट्री चलेगा, बंद होने से कंट्री कोई भी नहीं चल सकता। क्योंकि आपने देखा है कि जैसे अभी टैक्सीज की कितनी शॉर्टेज हो गई है, जहाँ पेट्रोल नहीं बिक रहा, या दूसरे रेस्टोरेंट्स या सारी चीजें बंद हैं। इन सब को देखते हुए अभी हमें थोड़ा सा संयम रखना पड़ेगा। कोई ज्यादा दिन का नहीं है। गवर्नमेंट एक ऐसी प्लानिंग लेके आ रही है जिसके अंदर हम 50% खुलेंगे और 50% काम भी करेंगे। अपनी फैक्ट्रीज को भी आप चला पाओगे। तो ये चीज़ें हमारे बिजनेस में हमारे एक्सपोर्टर भाइयों के लिए आने वाले टाइम के अंदर बिल्कुल सुरक्षित रहेंगी, ठीक रहेंगी। और मैं यही बार बार कहना चाहूँगा कि ये एक ऐसी घड़ी है जो सारे वर्ल्ड के लिए है, मगर ये ठीक हो जाएगी। ये थोड़ा टाइम आता है। फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर हुई थी, सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर भी हुई, कई कंट्री बर्बाद हो गए मगर वो नंबर 1 पे आ गए। सो ये समझिए कि ये भी एक थर्ड वर्ल्ड वॉर की तरह ही है, बट वी विल गेन इट इमीडिएटली। एंड अगर मैं ये कहूँगा मैक्सिमम क्वेश्चन आंसर, क्योंकि मैं मानता हूँ मनोज जी को मैं पहले भी 1-2 बार हमने इकट्ठी ये सेमिनार्स की हैं और ये इनका जो जायजा है बताने का वो बड़ा क्लियर होता है। अभी जैसे रस्तोगी साहब जी ने बताया कि कई चीज़ें हैं, उन्होंने बड़ी IGST के बारे में बताया कि क्यों गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसा कुछ किया है या उसके संशोधन लॉ के अंदर किए हैं। तो ये बड़ी एक बेनिफिशियल आइटम्स हैं, क्वेश्चंस हैं, और इसको लेके मैं अपने एक्सपोर्टर भाइयों से ये प्रार्थना करता हूं कि आप मैक्सिमम क्वेश्चन आंसर इनसे करें और इस कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. As always, we are benefited with your advice and your words of wisdom to be calm and stay focused, and this too shall pass. Moving on, sir, we have other panelists with us. Now, I would like to go to Mr. Naresh Bothra. Mr. Naresh Bothra represents Bothra International Jodhpur. He is also, he is having an experience over 25 years in the field of handicrafts and is currently exporting to 30 countries. And by qualification, he is an ICW and CS. I think he is one of the few panelists who understands GST better than the rest of us. So I would request Mr. Naresh Bothra to share his views on what is being said, and then we'll move to next panelist. Mr. Bothra.
Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome Mr. Dheeraj Rastogi. It was really nice to hear you, sir. Mr. Manoj Goyal, he has appropriately put all the changes that has happened since March till now. That was a fantastic consolidation of all the things at the same platform. I thank EPCH, Mr. Rakesh Kumar Verma ji and Rajesh ji as well. They have been organizing different webinars on different topics during this period, which have been very, very helpful for the industry. Going further and coming down on the topic, first of all, I would like to thank the Government of India, especially the GST officers. This has been a very welcome thing that has happened in the country. It has been a fantastic economic change which is assisting, and going forward, it is the norm of the world which we have adopted. Initially, there were some problems. I can understand anything. The initial phases had always some issues. But as it settled down, today this is the best thing that has happened to the industry. We are all very, very grateful to the country and the GST officers. Moving further, EPCH as a parent body and as a catalyst of the industry has taken up the problems which came through all during the last 3 years very constructively, especially the process-based problems which are being faced. हम कोई return file कर रहे हैं, कोई problem आ गया, कहीं आगे नहीं बढ़ रहा है portal. They took up the problems immediately, and from the officer side also, the response was fantastic. Within 4 to 72 hours, all maximum, I would say more than 90% of the problems were resolved immediately, except for policymakers which go to GST Council. All the problems were taken up very well and they were resolved very, very fast. During this COVID season, the Chief Commissioner Jaipur, Mr. P.K. Singh, he came with a drive that all the pending refunds should be taken up and they were sorted out. All the cases which came to us as a federation, which we reported to him, they were all sorted out, 100% of them indeed. किसी के बैंक अकाउंट में कोई प्रॉब्लम था वो चेंज हुआ, किसी के रिस्की एक्सपोर्टर्स लिस्ट थी उसके चेंजेस थे, तो जितने भी प्रॉब्लम्स हमने रेज की they were all sorted out 100%. I raised 7 problems on behalf of my federation members and all were resolved indeed. And even local level जो कमिश्नर साहब हमारे आलोक गुप्ता जी उनका भी बहुत अच्छा रहा. This particular drive was very, very helpful at this time जब हम आराम से peacefully काम कर पाए और वो सारे काम हो पाए. Coming to the things further, अभी जो कुछ चीजें चेंजेस हुए हैं और दूसरी जो चल रही है, तो एक एरिया जो अभी भी है कंसर्न का, दैट इज रिस्की एक्सपोर्टर्स लिस्ट. काफी केसेस अभी भी पेंडिंग है उसमें और अभी सॉर्ट आउट नहीं हो पाया. इट इज टेकिंग अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम एंड स्पेशली ड्यूरिंग दिस पीरियड जब हमको इसकी कुछ प्रोसेस में फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन और ऑडिट्स की आवश्यकता पड़ती है, वो प्रॉब्लम अभी भी सॉर्ट आउट हो नहीं सकती. तो इसलिए आई रिक्वेस्ट कि अगर जैसे ये खुलता है तो इस प्रॉब्लम को थोड़ा सा टेकअप किया जाए. क्योंकि फिजिकल ऑडिट्स एंड वेरिफिकेशन आर नॉट पॉसिबल एट दिस स्टेज व्हेन द फैक्ट्रीज आर नॉट ऑपरेटिंग. तो इसका हम अल्टरनेटिव सॉल्यूशन क्या कर सकते हैं, आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट उसमें एक देखा जाए सर. Coming to this rule 86(4)(c), even this price comparison of products with similar sale in domestic markets. Commonly, I agree with the department's concern, but with handicraft sector, this is going to be a very unique experience क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ pricing बहुत vary करती है सर. Say for an example, हम handicraft का एक animal figure ही ले रहे हैं, तो पहली चीज तो उसका size ही vary करता है, 6 इंच से लेके 5 फीट तक का हो सकता है. Variation 6 इंच और 5 फीट में up to 50 times आ जाता है कई बार. So this 150% का जो comparison है, this will not work practically for our industry. Even if we talk like एक handicraft की decorative table है, so price would vary somewhere between $80 to $400. अगर हमने mother of pearl का या bone inlay का table बनाया है, तो वो बहुत महंगा जाता है सर. So we cannot really compare pricing just because of a domestic price comparison. I think handicraft industry is very unique. This is not a standardized product. तो एक problem future में आने वाला है, तो इसको आप देखिएगा सर. तीसरा आ रहा है एक्सपायरी ऑफ ई-वे-बिल्स हैज सर्टेनली बीन टेकन अप वेरी वेल. 30th अप्रैल तक हमने इसको एक्सटेंड कर दिया है, बट आई थिंक काफी ई-वे-बिल्स जो उसमें जनरेट हुए और जो शिपमेंट्स नहीं हो सकी या मूवमेंट्स नहीं हो सके, 30 अप्रैल तक भी शायद उनका कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ है प्रोसेस. आई थिंक इसको शायद एक्सटेंड करना पड़ सके. यू लुक इनटू दिस सर. आई डोंट नो एग्जैक्टली हाउ मच वुड बी द नंबर विद दिस पर्टिकुलर प्रॉब्लम. 1.5 करोड़ से कम टर्नओवर वाली जो यूनिट्स है जो क्वार्टरली रिटर्न फाइल करते हैं सर, उसमें हमको 20% का सेटअप तो मिल जाता है, बट दैट इज नॉट सफिशिएंट इन मेनी केसेस. कि हमारे बहुत छोटे-छोटे सप्लायर्स होते हैं जो 1.5 करोड़ से नीचे की टर्नओवर लिमिट्स में आते हैं. उस केस में 20% का जो सेटअप हमको मिल रहा है इनपुट का, दैट इज नॉट सफिशिएंट. आई वुड रिकमेंड कि इसको 50% तक किया जाए. दैट वुड बी अ बेटर डील फॉर द इंडस्ट्री एंड बी अ बिग रिलीफ फाइनेंशियली आल्सो फॉर अस. एज इट इज कि हम लोग तो रिटर्न्स फाइल कर रहे हैं, उसके बाद ही क्लेम करते हैं, हमारे रिटर्न तो फाइल हो जाता है. I don't think कि only 20% of the जो दूसरी फर्म्स हैं वो अपने रिटर्न्स फाइल कर पाती है. तो certainly I understand कि more than 50% are filing. अगर लेट भी करती है तो उनके रिटर्न तो प्रॉपर्ली फाइल होते हैं. जो ambiguity केस या प्रॉब्लम एरियाज हैं, they will be very very limited. I think this can easily be enhanced from 20 to 50%. एक इशू है सर ITC रिफंड का, which is कैपिटल गुड्स से रिलेटेड. इसमें जो IGST का सेटअप है, IGST के केस में हो जाता है, बट LUT के केस में नहीं हो पा रहा है, या it is vice versa. This is a discrimination between the two systems of movement if we are filing under IGST or versus LUT. So just look into this discrimination. I think this needs to be sorted out as well. एक error है सर SP005 error, which is an authority like mostly जैसे बहुत minor issues है. एक हैश की जगह डैश लगा दिया गया है फाइलिंग के टाइम, वो भी एक एरर बन जाता है. So I think ऐसी errors के लिए rather than going to the senior level, permission should be granted to the local level officers to sort out this kind of a problem, क्योंकि नहीं तो ये process काफी लंबा हो जाता है. So these were some things, but otherwise we all at the industry and beyond industry level are very very happy with the GST format and the regime, and truly grateful to all the officers at different levels who have been proactively there for us and sorting out the problems very well, sir. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Naresh ji. Thank you very much. And it's good to hear that all the GST refunds at your end has been taken care of and sorted out. And you are getting full support from all the GST officers. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. And you posed a lot of questions to Mr. Rastogi and to Mr. Goyal. We'll come to those questions in the end. Now, moving on, I would request, we have with us Mr. Rajkumar Malhotra, Vice Chairman EPCH. I would request Mr. Malhotra to share his thoughts on the subject, and then we'll move on. Mr. Malhotra.
Thank you, Rajesh. I think my voice is clear and everything is okay.
Yes, sir. Everything is okay.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I am really thankful to Mr. Dheeraj Rastogi and the step taken by GST panel. All the steps are very welcome and must be appreciated. This is a need of the hour. जो भी इन्होंने अमेंडमेंट करी, अभी जो इन्होंने सर्कुलर निकाले, जो नोटिफिकेशन दिए हैं to help the industry, businessmen, the exporters, there is no doubt our industry is really thankful to the department and the government for this. But still, like a businessman or industry, you can say like a cow. और उन्होंने सरकार को या डिपार्टमेंट को दूध तो देना ही देना है. तो ये समय ऐसा है, this time is the cow is a little bit sick. Businessman, industry थोड़ी सी बीमार चल रही है या हो गई है. Naturally, इंडस्ट्री को भी कोरोना वायरस हुआ है. तो ये समय सरकार की तरफ से अगर गाय कुछ कम दूध दे रही है तो उसको थोड़ा प्यार से, उसको थोड़ा लीनियंट तरीके से उनकी मदद करते हुए जहां भी आप उसकी हेल्प कर सकते हैं. आई थिंक जितना हम आपको अप्रिशिएट कर रहे हैं, आपके डिपार्टमेंट को, सरकार को, जितनी सरकार कर रही है उसमें कोई कमी नहीं है. वी रियली थैंकफुल टू द गवर्नमेंट. और मैं धीरज जी से रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूं कि इंडस्ट्री के लिए आप हमारे छोटे एक्सपोर्टर जो हैंडीक्राफ्ट एक्सपोर्टर हैं उनके लिए थोड़ा सा, एक तो जो क्लेम है जो ऑलरेडी क्लेम करे जा चुके हैं उसको जितनी जल्दी हो सके रिलीज करें, क्योंकि इंडस्ट्री के पास में, छोटे एक्सपोर्टर के पास से वही पैसा है जो डिपार्टमेंट के पास रुक गया है. आना शुरू हो गया है, पीछे सरकार ने इंस्ट्रक्शन दी है, वी आर गेटिंग दैट मनी, बट अभी भी उसकी वो स्पीड नहीं है जिस स्पीड की हमारे को या इंडस्ट्री को जरूरत है. उसके बाद में अगर कोई ऐसी कहीं देखो सरकार जानती है कहाँ कहाँ उसका हाथ रुकता है. आप अंडरटेकिंग ले सकते हैं, ऑनलाइन अंडरटेकिंग लें. 70% 80% इमीडिएट अगर रिलीज कर देंगे तो इंडस्ट्री अपने पांव पे खड़ी हो सकती है, क्योंकि इतना ही पैसा है. एक छोटे एक्सपोर्टर्स हैं, बड़े एक्सपोर्टर नहीं है सारे. तो हमें चाहिए कि आप जितनी जल्दी हो सकें वो जो हमारे क्लेम है, जो इंडस्ट्री के क्लेम है, उसको जल्दी से जल्दी रिलीज कर दें. तो ये आपकी तरफ से एक तोहफा होगा इंडस्ट्री को. और हम जो आपको, सरकार को इतना कह रहे हैं कि इतना मदद हो रही है, उसके अंदर और एक ये लग जाएगा कि वाकई सरकार हमारी मदद के लिए खड़ी है. दूसरा जो HSN कोड की बात आई है, वो आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं कि लोग बाय कुछ करते हैं, भेजते कुछ हैं. अब कहीं MDF अगर कोई खरीदता है तो एक डिफरेंट HSN में खरीदता है, पर उसका जो बना के कुछ भी, चाहे फर्नीचर या फोटो फ्रेम या कुछ बनाता है, तो उसका HSN कोड चेंज हो जाता है. तो क्योंकि मैन्युफैक्चरर एक्सपोर्टर का तो HSN कोड चेंज होगा ही होगा सप्लाई एक्सपोर्ट के टाइम पे या सप्लाई के टाइम पे. तो ये तो नेचुरली इट्स वेरी, मैन्युफैक्चरर एक्सपोर्टर्स के लिए तो एक वो है ही, और हम उसको कर भी रहे हैं. इसमें कोई सरकार का गलत वो नहीं है, लोग इसको मिसयूज कर रहे थे. ये प्रोविजन आना ही चाहिए था. पर इस समय इंडस्ट्री को आपकी तरफ से, सरकार की तरफ से थोड़ा सा, और इंडस्ट्री के लिए जो आप कर रहे हैं, आपकी नजर थोड़ी सी हेल्पफुल और लीनियंट चलनी चाहिए. अगर रिटर्न वगैरह आप जैसे भी कह रहे हैं, तो मैं धीरज जी का थैंक्स करता हूं. अब मैं आ रहा हूं मनोज गोयल पे. मनोज जी, आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन एज यूजुअल वेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव, वेरी इंप्रेसिव, वेरी यूजफुल है इंडस्ट्री के लिए. कई बार मैंने आपके सेमिनार को चेयर करा है. आपने जो भी कहा, मेरा आपसे एक प्रश्न है, क्वेश्चन है कि जो भी पेमेंट, जब बायर को माल भेजा उसके बाद में बायर ने चैप्टर 11 फाइल कर दिया या इंसॉल्वेंसी फाइल कर दी और पेमेंट नहीं आई. अब रिसेंटली मेरे ख्याल इतने केस हुए होंगे, शायद आप इंडस्ट्री का तो जो भट्टा बैठा है इन्हीं वजह से, कैंसिलेशन में और बायर की पेमेंट ना आने की वजह से है. उसमें नेचुरली कुछ लोग GST अपने प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर क्लेम ले चुके होंगे और कुछ लेंगे. तो क्या स्टेटस है? क्योंकि बाकी बड़े क्वेश्चंस होंगे इंडस्ट्री के पास में. ये एक ऐसा क्वेश्चन है जो मेरे से बार बार फोन करके पूछ रहे हैं लोग कि अगर हमारी पेमेंट नहीं आई और हमें, कईयों ने तो ECGC क्लेम करा है, उनको ECGC क्लेम मिल सकता है या मिलेगा जो भी सिस्टम में है, और कईयों की पेमेंट नहीं आएगी. इस केस में मैं मनोज से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि इसको प्लीज एक्सप्लेन कर दें, क्योंकि मेरे पास में डायरेक्टली फोन आए हैं कि इसके बारे में प्लीज हमारी तरफ से आप मनोज जी से रिक्वेस्ट करें. अगर मिस्टर धीरज जी रस्तोगी जी भी इसके ऊपर कुछ अपनी रोशनी डाल सकेंगे, वी विल बी थैंकफुल. थैंक यू वेरी मच. थैंक यू.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sharing the problems of the small exporters who are engaged in production of handicrafts. Thank you very much for your comments. Now we have got two more panelists to go to, and then we'll come to the question answer session. Now I would request Mr. KL Ramesh. Mr. KL Ramesh represents Messrs. Vijay Lakshmi Agarbatti Works, Bangalore. He is a creator of a product called VG7 in 1993. and very famous in almost 50 countries. He has also served as president of All India Agarbatti Manufacturers Association, chairman of FAME R&D Center, served as regional convener, South Zone, and was also vice chairman of EPCH once. He is also general secretary in the governing council of HCSSC. Mr. Ramesh, I would request you to share your brief thoughts so that we can quickly move on to Mr. Verma and then to the Q&A session, because there are a lot of questions which are being asked to our key panelists. Mr. Ramesh.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rawatji. Thank you very much, our Executive Director, Shri Verma ji. And thank you very much, Shri Manoj Goyal ji, for a wonderful session. Your thoughts and your details were what given is very, very informative. And Shri Dheeraj Rastogi sahab, you were also very nice in telling all the things about the GST formulations, GST rules and regulations. And Mr. Naresh Bothra ji was very well explained all the problems of our industry. And the EPCH team, I will thank you very much for conducting this session. And nowadays, this refund is not happening properly. That is what our main concern. And many places, about 6 months, 8 months, 1 year also, it's happening for exporters who are facing a financial crunch. So this is what I wanted to give information to the ministry. But otherwise, the GST, we are all welcoming very well. And one more important thing is for the composite tax payers, for these handicraft units, there is no interstate sales. So interstate sales should be allowed, because lot of handicrafts are sold only in tourist spots. So tourist spots will be next state or next to next state. So this is becoming a big problem to the industry for composite taxpayers, because they will be very small taxpayers. So they cannot afford to pay tax for that this thing. And one more thing, the HS code, for example, Agarbatti industry, the turnover of export is around 900 to 1,000 crores, which is only 4% of total exports of handicraft exports from the country. So this 4% turnover, about 900 to 1,000 crores, a refund of about 80 crores will be there, not more than that. Not even 80 crores also, it will be 70, 75 crores. That is all just peanuts to the government, but still we are facing problems. But that amount, what we wanted to get back from the department, it is a big amount for us. So it is, we are in all financial crunch for this. And one more thing, many places, the export, we ourselves in Agarbatti industry especially, I don't know about other handicraft industry, we give 90 days credit period for the buyers, foreign buyers. Because now in my thing itself, we are exporting to about 54 countries. So like this, the many places we may have to give 90 days time, and over about 90 days time, they will take some more time to pay. So that will be, realization will be too late. And refund for the duty drawback, again we have to pay back, and again after collecting from money from the final buyer, again we have to come back and get refund. It will all be a cumbersome process. So that is one more thing. And one more thing is regarding HSN code. I like to point out that in Agarbatti industry, there are about 200 or 250 items which goes into manufacturing, are all different HS codes. Lot of items are there. For making rabati, different things are there. For making a perfume, different things are there. For making a cartoon and packing materials are all different HS codes. So it is very, very big Herculean task for maintaining these HSN codes and giving to the department. What time it will take and how much staff is also required for that. Many Agarbatti units are one-man show and all unorganized sector. I think my advice or my suggestion, whatever you say, please give exemption for this HSN code for Agarbatti industry. It is why we cannot work out this thing. It is very, very difficult for us to do. And only thing is important is that the HSN code I have already completed. and some circulars what recently the department has given, we all welcome. The most of the things are given time to file, and also the payment of GST balance, and for that from 18% to 9% they have reduced all. We are welcoming all these things, and we are thanking you for giving us so much of relief in all these things. But few things what I told you, please look into that and give some relief. Thank you very much. Thank you very much all the panelists, and thank you very much Mr. Manoj Goyal ji and Mr. Dheeraj Rastogi ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh ji. Thank you very much. Your point is very well taken. That there is some problem with the refunds is concerned. There are certain areas in the country where we are getting refunds at a quicker rate than the other parts of the country. Now, before we move on to the Q&A session, I would request Mr. R.K. Verma to quickly give his comments, and then we'll come to the question answer session. Mr. Verma. Mr. Verma is Executive Director, EPCH.
Thank you, Rawatji. First of all, Chairman Pasi ji, Sri Vice Chairman Sri Malhotra ji, and other senior panelists, particularly the user of the GST, they have explained very well the issues concerned they are facing day to day. Particularly the JS, Sri Dheeraj Rastogi, sir, thank you very much. You have given a explanation what was the logic. Government have given the relaxation on the extension of the dates for various return files. We are thankful to you, sir. But on the other side, sir, Mr. Malhotra, Mr. Bothra have already raised some issues, particularly HSN and Dusra refund of the GST. So just like Mr. Malhotra suggests that if 70% or 80% refund can be made, because now the industry is passing a very difficult time. So if government can consider for their support this time, and later on they can be made the payment as per usual. So this is the one request to you. On the other side, that Mr. Manoj Goyal very well explained and update us the recent almost in 1 month the government has taken up the issues, and you have presented very well. So sir, thank you very much. And I think Rawatji, we should move fast, because another meeting, I think 1:30 was due, and then 3 another meeting. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now the question answer session. There have been a lot of questions. So I'll start with Mr. Dheeraj Rastogi to take a few questions, and then we'll move on to Mr. Manoj Goyal. Mr. Rastogi. Sir, you can unmute yourself. You're muted, sir.
Actually, I could not
Yes, sir.
find any question directly related to me. Can you give me some question which is directly addressed to me?
One question that was often posed to us, sir, was regarding the risky exporter. Now, what has happened is, sir, there have been certain exporters who have been brought in that list, and the Government of India, the GST Council, came up with a notification in the month of January, SOP, for getting your name removed from the risky exporters list. Now, what they have done is, exporters have to file a lot of documents to get their name removed. But when they did, and they have their shipment lined up, customs, they approached the customs officer that they want their shipments to go through. But what they found there was, despite submitting all the documents with the GST commissariat, the customs at its end says that their name still appears in the risky exporters list. So there is a bit of lack of coordination between the GST commissariat office and the customs. So this has to be worked out, sir. Most of the exporters managed to get this solved, but still there are a few exporters who are facing problem with respect to this disconnect, sir. So we would request your comment on that, and then we'll go to Mr. Manoj Goyal, sir.
Actually, as per SOP, once the no objection certificate is given by the jurisdictional GST formation, it has to go to the DG ARM office in Delhi. Now, what I noticed was that in many such cases, the DG ARM office was not receiving those NOC objections. Now, unless the DG ARM office gives that final NOC to the field formation, they are not clearing it. So that has been actually the stumbling block. So I would advise that in your field formations, whenever you go that for that NOC, instead of having NOC sent directly to the port, you ask them to route it through DG ARM office. Because DG ARM office is the nodal office who are identifying that risky exporters in the first place. So unless they say that now we no more find that exporter a risky exporter, the name will not be taken off from the list. So that has been the stumbling block, I feel, because last week only one exporter from Moradabad approached me, and I got the whole case investigated. So in that case, I noticed that this was the missing link of communication. I would advise that ask your field formations to send it to DG ARM, not to the port directly.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Because there is some miscommunication, sir. Because of that, there appears to be some problem with respect to NOC.
So there I noticed that the NOC had gone to the port, but port was sitting because they have not received through DG ARM. So
yes, sir. That is the problem.
Anything not received from authorized channel, in the government, it is presumed that I don't have to act on it.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Now we'll go to Mr. Manoj Goyal. Mr. Goyal, you received a lot of questions. So probably you can take the key ones and then we'll end the session. Mr. Goyal.
Sure, sir. Thank you, Rawatji. So as I can see on the screen, there are around 76 questions in the Q&A section. So we will just try and pick them up one by one, and we'll see how many of them can be resolved. So the first one is actually not a question. It talks about how can we download. I'll take the first one first. Yeah, so it says, how can we download this presentation to check later after the seminar? So I can share the presentation with Mr. Rawat, and he can further circulate this amongst the members. That's not an issue. So the second point, I can see somebody has written, Mr. Naveen Surana has written a very lengthy note on what is the risky exporter. Tens of exporters claim incorrect refunds, and then he's mentioned about the consequences, etc.
That question I think has been answered by Mr. Rastogi.
Yeah. So there is anyways it was not right, sir. So I'll move to the next one. It says, dear Manojji, my CA filed the TRAN one, but it didn't get reflected on the portal due to technical glitches, and GSTN denies that it was some kind of a technical glitch. Please advise the resolution to it. So there has been time and again, I think, many circulars and notifications on the same issue, that if you had filed a TRAN one for taking over your credit from the previous period to the GST regime, and you did it legitimately, but there were some technical glitches because of which the form could not be filed. So they have given resolution time and again, the dates have been extended, and it has been given, authority has been given to the commissioner concerned that he can reopen your TRAN one and you can get it done. So I think the only option available with you is to fight it out and reach to the next level, go and meet the commissioner of the jurisdiction, and they have the power to reopen in case your problem is legitimately about technical glitches. Government has categorically time and again explained that we will entertain only those requests where genuinely there was a technical problem, otherwise not. So you can approach your commissioner and discuss your case with them. Please let us know when.
Here I can also tell you something. The stand of the government is that we would allow reset of TRAN 1 only in those cases where the technical glitch was there. Technical glitch would mean that when you registered and say you had 15 different states you had registration, the registration was done successfully in 12, 3 was not there, so accordingly the credit could not be passed on 3, or maybe some similar such technical errors were there. A number of, I think 7, 8 have been identified and in only those cases the Tran 1 is getting allowed. Rest of the cases where the person simply forgot to do it on time, or maybe they were not knowing it at that time, or maybe they simply filled the wrong information. In all those cases, the reset is not being allowed.
Right, sir. So the next question is, please let us know when goods are tailor-made for overseas buyers, then how to find out the comparative rates for claiming refund. I think this is the time will only test as to where and how the comparison will come from. Like Mr. Bothra was also mentioning that there are sizes issues or quality issues, or some compositions are different from one item to other, which makes the prices uncomparable. So I am sure that government will have to look into the practicalities and only see where the similar products can be compared in terms of quality, quantity, and other parameters. Then only this can be challenged. Otherwise, these kind of situations, one will have to be sensitive that the price difference is not because of the domestic and the export prices, it's because of the variety of products. So, but we'll still have to test because the rule is.
Well, I can supplement here. The provision is not to discourage the export or not to restrict it. The only purpose here is to restrict the IGST refund. It should
Correct,
not
sir.
be
Correct.
that you buy the input for 20 rupees and pay tax for 100 rupees by arranging fake invoices.
Yeah, yeah.
With that purpose
Right,
there's no other purpose.
Right, sir. So, sir, the next question has been addressed to you, so I'll read it out and then we'll see how we can answer. Dear Mr. Rastogi, my question is regarding the pending issue regarding refund of IGST and CGST during transition period of July to September 2017. My social mention is to the reverse charge deposited by honest taxpayers, wherein the whole mechanism was found.
Goyalji, this seems to be a policy issue. We cannot perhaps.
No, I totally agree, sir. I totally agree. Okay,
Manoj
so
ji,
let's move on, sir.
Manoj, my request you to take the key questions which are pertaining to GST only, because we have got 5 more minutes.
Okay, sure. So Tran 1 we have already discussed. This we are leaving for the moment. We are an export house and are manufacturing and exporting goods to our overseas buyers as per their specifications. How can, okay, so this we have already taken care of. Can we see all participants? There is nothing to answer. Respected sir, our GST refund is pending. We are risky profile. Again, we have dealt with. I don't think we need to take it forward again. If we have online handicrafts export business less than 40 lakhs, we have to apply for GST as mandatory for online business. But can we avail GST exemption for business under 40 lakhs? No. If we are under IGST, you're making some exports, even if it is less than 40 lakhs, we have to take registration, no exemption. How can we proceed for Aadhaar authentication? Any link? I think the process will be given, and this is only about certain people who are either the authorized signatories or partners of the firm or other dignitaries. So the process will be given by the department in due course. In current scenario, what is the validity of these notifications?
I can supplement on this. The facility is ready at the GSTN level. The day it gets a go ahead, it will be implemented and link will be available.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. And the next one is, in the current scenario, what is the validity of these notifications, whereas Delhi zone is declared as red zone? I don't think we can comment on this. This is the time will tell. Sir, how we can access the past webinar recorded by EPCH? I think Rawat ji will have to answer that.
That will
person
share.
who sign invoices, is it mandatory to? Sure, sir. So person who signs the invoices, is it necessary to register him as authorized signatory on the portal? Yes, technically yes, because the person who is authorized signatory can only technically sign the invoices physically. So you have to. Next, extend is 9C, but annual return is to be filed. The answer is yes for 2018-19. the GSTR 9C has been waived up to 5 crores, but 9 will have to be filed. Further, the processing of GST refund on exports are not being released on flimsy grounds. No answer. Again, the question is about Rule 86.4 for SEZ. Please discuss about that. Yes, this is on all zero-rated supplies, including the supplies being made to SEZs as well. What the logic behind changing the definition of zero-rated supply? Will it not affect exports? We've already discussed that. 1.5 Rastogi sir has beautifully explained this provision. How to get LUT in the first time. LUT filing is online. We can simply go on the GST website and file it. It's a 1-minute job. LUT filing is not a difficult thing. Regarding Rule 86.4C, sir, who and how will value 1. I think it's a self-declaration model. 1.5 times you only have to consider according to your domestic and export supplies. But obviously, when there is a scrutiny or any investigation, then obviously that comparison will be done by the department also. Sir, you would like to add anything?
Sorry, on what?
The question was, who will and how this 1.5 times valuation will be determined?
So normally, I mean, we cannot answer it right now. Normally, the things are done on the risk basis. Where we identify the risk, in those cases, we question. And actually, it will be mostly on the self-declaration basis. One has to declare that he has checked, it is not more than 1.5 times, then, I mean, no separate procedure is prescribed right now. But then subsequently, we will evolve as to how to check it.
Right, sir. The next question is, as per the presentation.
In customs, previously also at the time of export, initially there were no export valuation rules. Subsequently, export valuation rules were brought to just check this kind of menace. Now this has traveled into GST.
Sir.
There also it is on self-declaration, and only in select few cases customs questions it.
Right, sir. The next question is, as per the presentation, time for realization of export proceeds is stated as 90 days from export. I understand this is 180 days from the date of export. Please clarify. I think there must have been a mistake in the presentation. If you have seen 90 days, the RBI regulation says 9 months. So it is 9 months from the date of export. The next question is, required any extension against the viewer in damage charges for last notification till 3rd May? I am not able to understand this question. Dear sir, our GST note received.
Actually, there may not be a notification. It was only an advisory.
Okay, the GST applicability on damage charges. Okay, now I understand. Okay, so the next question again is about we have not received refund. So I will skip this. The second one does not seem to be a question at all. It is not received. Sorry for typing mistake. Okay. Next question is, my turnover for financial year 18-19 is 2.5 crores aggregate. As you confirmed that under 80 sub rule 3, below 5 crores is not required. So is this required to be filed in future or permanently exempted? No, it is only for 18-19 the exemption is there. Otherwise, for 2.5 crores from 19-20 as of now, you have to get the audit done. This is Ram from Feeder Sourcing. As a service provider, we fall in export services, but we cannot charge GST on our client invoice as we are paying GST 18% to the government. That we cannot adjust as we are not buying any material. For goods export, GST exempted. Can you please confirm, is GST also exempted? Yes, very much. For the, not for buying agency. All other service providers, GST is exempt. Exempt in the sense you can claim refund. Your service will also be considered as zero rated supply. But buying agency does not qualify in the category of export of services because it is an intermediary service. That is why for a buying agency, the refund of GST will not be applicable. This next question is, can you please share PPT by mail? So it will be done. Please share. So next one is, please share Mr. Manoj Goel's email ID and contact details. It will be done. Again, sir, can we copy this presentation? It's done. We can go. Okay. Is there any revised GST amendment for services for service contracts like no refund provisions? No, as I said, for services, refund provisions are already there, but not for buying agencies. Sir, can we have copy of this presentation? I think we have already discussed this. The IGST amount has
we
been
have to
deducted.
close now. We
Okay,
are
sir, done.
running out of time. So
Okay, no
I
problem.
think most of the questions we have covered, and the questions which are left, Mr. Manoj Goyal will share his presentation. The details are there in that presentation. You can write directly to him, send a copy to us. So those questions will also be answered. And thank you for your comments. Now we have come to the end of it. We've answered most of the questions. We had a very thoughtful discussions during these course of 1.5 hours. I would like to thank Dheeraj Rastogi for joining us. I would also like to thank our chairman, our vice chairman, Mr. Bothra, Mr. Ramesh, Mr. Verma, and last but not the least, Mr. Manoj Goyal, who has always been a part of our discussions on GST. Thank you all. Thank you very much for joining. I'd also like to thank over 300 participants who have joined us, who heard us, who posed questions. I thank all of them for their overwhelming support, and we look forward to such support in future as well. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, and keep learning. Thank you again. Thank you very much.